We are here at the Warren County Administration Building talking with Matt Nolan, our Warren County Administrator. This is a special edition of Here and There, and we would like to welcome Matt to our program today.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Property taxes has been a big topic of interest to a lot of people, and so we wanted to talk to you today about how that may be affecting people here in the near future. But I first wanted to start with, a lot of people don't know exactly what a county auditor does, so if you can just tell us a little bit about your role with the county, that may help set the stage for what we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Sure. So the county auditor is effectively the CFO of the county. We're in charge of all the money, and so we are in charge of all the property values, the tax rates that go along with those. We handle all of the accounting, payroll for 1,200 employees. So anything that involves money in the county goes through the county auditor's office.
Okay. So we have heard a lot lately about pending property tax increases. If you could just explain kind of what's happening and what people are going to see in the near future.
So every county around us went through this last year. So a lot of people, especially in Springboro, heard about it in Dayton or in Butler County or Greene County. They all went through this last year. Every 3 years, we have to reevaluate every property in the county. And given the current market, that means a large increase in property values. A very good thing. We want our values to go up, but along with that comes a lesser but still increase in property taxes. And so we're preparing for that and letting people know that next year, as a result of this increase in value, you will see an increase in taxes as well.
Okay. What's causing that? Is it just the reevaluation, or is it any state law changes, anything like that?
No, it's really just the valuation. Like I said, it happens every 3 years. These are just bigger numbers than we're used to. It's no different really than every other cycle of the last 2 decades. It's just bigger numbers, and so that means bigger increases. The other kind of complicated part is that it used to be, when I gave this presentation, I talked about how values went up and rates came down and your taxes really didn't change. That has shifted. Springboro schools and almost every school in the area is that their rates can't come down anymore. They're as low as they can go. And so because of that, people's taxes are going to increase more than they have in the past.
Can you explain a little bit why Springboro's taxes can't go any lower?
Yeah, they're the lowest there are. Springboro schools have the lowest taxes in Warren County, some of the lowest taxes in all the state of Ohio. And so there is what they call a floor set by Ohio law, the Ohio Constitution actually, that they can't go below. So they can't collect any less under Ohio law. So that's where the rate's going to be. Springboro has the lowest taxes in the area, in the county. I believe the third lowest in the whole state. So they can't get any lower than they are. To have a community as strong and well respected as Springboro, and to be able to say they have the lowest taxes, is a real accomplishment, and we point to it all the time. I always ask people, where do you think the highest taxes are? And they always say Mason, which is not true. Mason's kind of in the middle of the road, and when you say the lowest, they always point to the rural areas. Not even close. Yeah. Springboro has the lowest taxes by a pretty good margin.
No, that's good to hear, and we're always working to try and keep those taxes low, so we appreciate you saying that for us. People don't always know where property taxes really go or what they fund. Can you talk a little bit about that, how that works in Warren County?
Everything about property taxes, Warren County, Ohio, everywhere, is about schools. They decided 200 years ago, we're going to fund our schools through property taxes because property taxes are consistent. Income taxes, sales taxes, they jump with inflation, they jump with recessions. We don't need that for our schools. We have to have a consistent amount of income, revenue coming in, and property taxes provide that. And so Ohio decided a long time ago, this is how we're going to do it. So about 80% of your property tax dollars go to your local school district. It is the main form of funding schools in Ohio. So, and the increase that you're going to see, 80% of that is going to the schools. The city gets a little, the county gets a little, but almost all of it goes to schools.
So how's this process going to work? What are people going to see? I'm sure you're going to be mailing some things out, right. Emails, different things like that. So explain how that process and what the timing is.
So we've just been approved by the state for our value increases, so we know what they are. We're in the process of getting that all put together. And so sometime in September, you'll get a postcard and it'll have a number on it. That number will be what the auditor thinks your new value is. And so it'll also have a QR code. You can go to our website. You can see what that means as far as taxes go. You can see where that number's from, what it's all made up of. And then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, come in, meet with an appraiser if you think that that value is too high. So all that's going to happen between middle of September and Thanksgiving, that everybody will have the opportunity to discuss that if they think that the value that we've put on it is more than what they could sell it for.
Okay, so you're not the final say. They
right.
can appeal.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
And there's multiple appeal options. There's kind of an informal one that I encourage people to go through from mid-September to Thanksgiving. And then there's a formal appeal from January to March that they can go through, and there's a board they can be heard by. And I encourage people that think their value is too high to go through that. I say all the time, I think we get things about 99% right around here, which is pretty good, but we have 110,000 parcels. So that means there's 1,100 mistakes we made. And so if you're one of those 1,100, you should come in. But what I most commonly hear is not that we've overvalued someone's property, it's that we've undervalued their neighbor's property. And while that information is important and we need to look at that, it doesn't help you get your value lowered. So I really encourage people, share that information, but if you're worried about your property value, you need to provide information that your property value is too high, not that your neighbor's is too low.
Got it. Okay. I know during the presentation you did for City Council recently, you talked about an important issue of people doing their property taxes in escrow. Yeah. Can you kind of explain that and the advice you gave? Because I thought it was really good advice for people that may not directly see that property tax increase.
That's right. So a big shift in my 15 years in this office has been that the number of people at escrow. Huge increase in that. Banks have made it really easy. It's easy for budgeting. However, the bank you're using, even if it's a great local bank, you know, LCNB or First National, their system does not record that the property taxes are going to increase. They don't anticipate that. They're not allowed to. So they are only taking in the amount of money that is currently due on taxes. What's going to happen in April or May is in February, they're going to pay the full new amount. And then in April or May, they're going to catch up. And they're going to send you a big bill and say, you've got to pay this now. And so I encourage people to set money aside anticipating that bill. It used to be most of our angry calls came in February when people were paying their taxes. Most of our angry calls now come in April when they get that catch-up bill from their bank. And so just having people anticipate that, talking to your bank and saying, hey, I'd like to put extra money aside for this, that's a good process too. But that's where we see the most people getting, because they don't see their bill anymore. And so they don't know this is happening. So just preparing themselves for that.
Okay, good. I know you've been pretty vocal at the state level and active up there trying to get some property tax issues changed throughout the state. So can you tell us just a little bit about what you would do to fix the property tax issue within over the entire state, not just Warren County?
Yeah, and that's really difficult because the state is so diverse, right? I mean, a law that works for Cleveland, that works for Appalachia, and then works for Warren County, I mean, those are very difficult to find. My biggest concern is helping senior citizens and those on fixed income. I think property taxes generally are a relatively fair tax. If you buy a $700,000 house, you're going to pay taxes on a $700,000. That's fair to me. Where it's not equitable in my mind is if you bought a $100,000 house 30 years ago, it's now worth $450,000 and you're paying taxes on that. That I find less equitable and just frankly harder for those people to pay on fixed incomes. So I've helped propose bills that will expand our homestead program to try to help senior citizens. And the other problem that we have is that local governments have very little access to different types of taxes. And so trying to get the state, who can tax anything, to contribute more. They've consistently cut the funding to local governments over the last decade and trying to get those funded more so that the local taxpayers don't have to pay them. Those are some of our efforts. The other, people talk about the success of Springboro. Springboro historically has not abated its properties. And so that's unique. People don't know that, but in most cities, there is a large business community that are not paying property taxes, so everybody else in the community is paying them. And so trying to lessen the number of property tax abatements that are out there to help kind of spread the taxes out rather than it all falling on single-family homeowners. Springboro does it on its own, but it's very hard for other communities to do that. And so trying to adjust that is kind of my passion project.
No, that's good. And you mentioned about the tax abatements. I'll speak a little bit to this, but yeah, a lot of people think any new business we come into town just automatically gets a tax abatement, and we, yeah, historically have not done that. And unfortunately, the way the state is set up with its tax structure is it almost pits us against our school
100%.
districts because we're trying to get the income tax, they want the property tax, but then we're allowed to abate that property tax for the businesses. So we've really tried to historically not do that because we want to protect our schools, because a better school district creates a better community.
100%.
And so no, I won't say we don't have any. We have, but yeah, we try to limit those as much as humanly possible.
Relatively few compared to all the other, and it's not a coincidence that you have relatively few tax abatements and the lowest tax rate. That didn't just happen. Those two things line up.
Well, cool. Well, anything else you'd want to add about this issue? Again, it's not Matt's fault, we promise. It's just the way the system's set up and how things are working. And it's always funny. I always hear residents say, we don't want things that affect our property values, but then when the property values go up, your taxes go up too. So it's trying to find that balance, and I honestly think you do a pretty good job of that as much as you can, but a lot of it's out of your control.
It is. I mean, it's really a good thing. Our property values have gone up so much. That's what we've always wanted. There is this consequence to it, but we should be happy about that. And if anybody has, open to communication all the time. Email me, call me directly. We're always here. The thing that I don't want people doing is sit around stewing, come in and talk, get it right. That helps the process a lot more. But I mean, the truth is, living in Warren, there is no better place you could live for property taxes in the state of Ohio than Springboro, Warren County in general. So move to Warren County, keep our values going up. Things are great.
We appreciate your time, Matt. If anybody has any further questions or information, the county website's a really good resource. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right.